Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome to Lightbringers with your host, Laura Shue. Lightbringers is a show that's dedicated to ordinary human beings who, despite their circumstances, find ways to transcend what we would think an ordinary human being would be able to achieve to bring light, hope, and a sense of community, a sense of something greater, a sense of gifts, the kinds of gifts that keep on giving. And today I'm really excited to have my friend, Melvin Parson, director and founder of a nonprofit in Washtenaw County, We the People Opportunity Farm. And Melvin, along with We the People Opportunity Farm, provide opportunities to formerly incarcerated men and women to heal, grow, and reintegrate back into society by, as Melvin will tell you, changing the soil. I hope that you will hear what Melvin has to say about the issues of the day. And I hope you will feel somewhat empowered, a sense of hope, a sense of agency, a sense of power for what any person might be able to accomplish and achieve no matter what is going on around them. So without further ado, I bring you Melvin Parson. Thank you.
It's going back to an imbalance that like I've never seen before in my lifetime. Like when I was born in 1964, so that was kind of like the start of like civil rights and all those things there. And so I feel like civil rights made some headway and some equality on some levels, but it was still very systemically unjust, even at its best. And now it feels like, yeah, like our country and our world, whatever, but certainly our country is going back to a time of systemic imbalance that like my parents saw and my grandparents saw, right? Like that sort of thing. Um, Even with the criminal injustice system, I think about, I feel like we would go for the only thing that, yeah, we got automobiles now, so there's police cars instead of horses, right?
Right.
Like that, like the police, the night riders rode horses because there was the invention of the automobile wasn't around then. But it feels like even in that, like how law enforcement interacts with black and brown folks, um, is very scary, very troubling, and very concerning to me.
I know you, but do you want to tell people who might not know you what would you tell them about Melvin Parson?
Oh shucks, what would I tell them about Melvin Parson? Oh God, I am my prison number is 184741. Um, I've spent 13 years of my life in and out of forms of incarceration in jails and in prisons. I spent over 2 decades of my life battling substance abuse, alcohol and drugs. I have been homeless several times, and and as a result of people not giving up on me, and having had a praying grandmother, uh, I somehow got my legs back up underneath me, and now I am a college graduate. Uh, I am the founder and director of a nonprofit organization whose mission is to break the cycle of incarceration here in Washtenaw County, where I live. The name of the organization is called We the People Opportunity Farm. I am a father. I am a bomb ass grandfather.
Uh,
Um, I am a homeowner. Um, and in some ways, with a lot of humbleness, I'm a pillar of my community now. Um, and I'm a champion of social justice and social equality, and I'm a firm believer that either you got a seat at the table or it's your ass that's on the menu. And somehow or another, I found myself with a seat at the table, and not only a seat at the table, but a voice at the table, and in some small way, with the help of a whole host of people, I've got an opportunity to set the table in some ways.
It's
So
really so I've been watching you for the past 13 years now. And I remember coming out to visit you when your operation was at that point kind of a small plot of land that the
yeah,
church had been letting you use.
yes.
And I think you were taking 1 to 2 interns at a time there. Do you want to talk a little bit about what it looks like now and what kind of has happened since then?
Yeah, well, yeah, I remember fondly the time you came out there to lend a hand, to put your hand in the soil. That was incredible. And yeah, and so I think when you came out there, Laura, we were just, I don't even know if we were a nonprofit organization yet. I don't think we were, because this is our 6th year as a nonprofit organization. But since then, we became a nonprofit organization. Um, we began to take formal steps to create a paid internship program for formerly incarcerated men and women, where they spend, let's say our internship is from April through mid-November, and they spend 16 to 20 hours a week with us. Part of that's working out at the farm, growing some organic vegetables, which we sell to local restaurants. And 1/3 of what we grow or they grow, we give away back to the community at no cost to them. Well, part of their internship with us is they participate in financial literacy workshops, compassionate communication workshops, social emotional learning workshops. Um, Last year, we brought in horse therapy for our interns. And every year, we have a new cohort of interns. And we pay our interns $21 an hour to be with us because money's a modality. Um, and our whole goal is to like come alongside folks just like me, who have been impacted by the injustice system, to come alongside them and build trust with them, and hope that they allow us to help them change some soil in their lives. So that's been going on for 5 years now. This year we started a new cohort of interns. We've got 6 people in our internship program now. Uh, and we're in the process of planning to launch our first social enterprise in the form of a cafe that will be employed with formerly incarcerated men and women. The name of the cafe will be Good Soil Cafe, and it'll be located in a very iconic building here in Ypsilanti that has a big cow that sits on top of the roof. So we're excited about the whole planning phase of that, and yeah, we're pretty optimistic about where we are as an organization, and the impact we're making in people's lives and in our community.
How how does somebody get to you to be an intern, Melvin?
Well, first of all, the only requirement is that they have to have some sort of prison or jail record. They have to, like that kind of thing, right? Like they have to have had gone to jail or to prison, right? Like that's the only requirement. One. And then we've been able to build a lot of relationships with organizations around our county that work with people who have been informally incarcerated. We built relationships with probation officers and parole officers. And so every year when our program gets ready to start, we'll send out a call to action and let our community partners know. And then they get in touch with people that they know that they might be working with, and they can go online and fill out an application, and there's a whole interview process and a decision making process, and and then that's how things start. And we generally start like April the 1st again, and the program lasts from to mid-November. One of the reasons we're excited about this whole social enterprise or the cafe is that it'll create jobs, like full-time jobs, like year-round jobs. And our internship is only 8 months. And so we're really excited about that, to be able to provide full-time employment and full-time support for people who a lot of times aren't able to find work because they have a criminal history. Um, there's some places, believe it or not, Laura, there's some places today that I can't get a job at, despite the fact that I'm a college graduate, despite the fact that um, I've helped start two nonprofit organizations, despite the fact that I'm a homeowner, all these things, just simply because I've been to prison before, I can't work at these places.
You know, feel called to share when you say that. I was talking with my husband recently, and you know, people might not realize, I don't, people might not realize that, but I'm also, like, as you shared earlier, so I'm also somebody who's in recovery from decades of substance use, alcoholism, drug abuse. I was out there on the streets too. There were multiple times where I had engagements with law enforcement in Ypsilanti, and they let me go with a warning for things that I know that if I look different, um, I would not have had that outcome. Um, but the biggest thing for me is when I finally did get clean and sober, I was able to completely reinvent myself. Right.
Mm-hmm.
There was no reason that I couldn't just decide to be a completely different human being.
Mm-hmm.
And when the time came for me to be reintegrated back in the workforce, I was able to answer questions on job applications. That job that I got that started everything for me at
Mm-hmm.
University of Michigan as a director, I never would
Mm-hmm.
have gotten that. They wouldn't have been able to hire me.
Mm-hmm.
And then every job I've gotten since then, they wouldn't have been able to hire me. So what do we
Right.
do when we want people to quote unquote pull themselves up by their bootstraps,
Right.
but then we've excluded them
Right.
from there's also some states where you can't vote,
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. If I lived somewhere in another state, there I wouldn't be able to even vote.
which is one of the most basic rights we consider for human beings. So,
Yeah.
um, you know, in some of the other patterns, I don't know if you want to get into some of the other patterns that we see, but something that became so I was just not aware of this until I moved from Washtenaw, which is a pretty affluent part of the country in most pockets, at least the pockets that I was living in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I came out here to Fresno. What people think of California very differently than what California actually is, which is to
Mm-hmm.
say, there are parts of California, including the Central Valley here, where poverty rates rival that of Appalachia. We've
Mm-hmm.
got some of the poorest people in the country living right here. the differences in policing. So there's a place called Clovis, and then there's Fresno, and there's parts of Fresno, and Clovis would be the Ann Arbor
Mm-hmm.
of your Washtenaw County, and
Okay.
and Fresno would be the Ypsilanti areas and Appalachia too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Policing is very different
Yes.
between the two communities. Um, and I don't think people in this country realize that one of the things money buys you
Right.
is being in a community where if you meet certain check boxes, the police are actually there to protect you and your property.
Yeah, there's a double standard and there's a double meaning in the phrase serve and protect, to serve and protect, right? Yeah. Where it sounds like the folks that live in Covis, law enforcement is there to serve and protect them. Where it sounds like in Fresno or some parts of Fresno law enforcement is there to contain, uh, lock up, and dismantle.
And all they are is poor.
Right. That's all they are. They're still human. Yeah. Right. That's it.
They're still human. Apparently, you can't be unhoused in Clovis. They will pick
Mhm.
you up and they will take you to Fresno. You can be unhoused in Fresno, but you can't
Sure.
be unhoused in Clovis.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I find it. Yeah. I find it. Yeah. Like you and I were talking earlier. Yeah. Things are. And I'm 61. And again, I was, as I mentioned, I was born in 1964. It kind of like the start of civil rights and things like that. And so there was some improvement made in terms of equality or the opportunity for everyone to run after the pursuit of liberty and justice and happiness and all the things, even though it was still pretty systemically imbalanced. And today, what I'm seeing is an imbalance that probably reflects what my grandparents saw and my parents saw, and so that's on so many levels, right? Housing, education, jobs, everything
Yeah.
is going rapidly back to where things were pre civil rights. And that's disturbing, because I've got a son and I've got a grandson who I think about often. And I'm in community. I'm in a community where I think about often what is that going to look like um, for the generation like my grandson's generation and even my son's generation. Uh, yeah, and it feels and looks kind of bleak. Um, but folks like you and I, like we've got to do something. Like like we can't stand by and not do nothing. Uh, that makes no sense. And so, yeah, I just, yeah, we just, we try to do what we can, plug in where we can, and connect with people in our communities that are like doing that grassroots work. I think that's the thing that will hold us, um, and protect us against this onslaught of the dismantling of our nation, of our country. That's how I feel.
I agree with you. It was Margaret Mead, I think, who said, never doubt that the actions of a small group of committed human beings can change the world, because in fact, it's the only thing that ever has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so those mutual aid societies, the grassroots organization at the local level, the importance of being in community, and also I think for me, the importance of not shying away from the really difficult conversations when they present themselves with an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Caring a lot less about whether I fit in, whether I'm liked, and more about at least asking some provoking questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not God. I can't make anybody think any differently than they do. I don't have that power. I want that power every day, by the way. It's on number one on my wish list.
Sure.
I get a
No
wish
doubt.
list of the powers that I want. That's going in the number one slot, but I don't have it. I don't have it right now. Um, what I see, it's unfortunate that it takes this, Melvin. The one thing that I see that does at times change hearts and minds is caring about somebody on a personal level that this is happening to. It
Mm-hmm.
it breaks my heart, um, because the word DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it stands for and it represents a lot of those civil rights gains that you were just talking about, what we were just
Yeah.
talking about. And now the idea that when people say, when this administration says we're going after DEI, what it means is literally that Black and brown folks are getting fired from their jobs. And now that's okay,
Mm-hmm.
that it's okay
Sure.
to fire Black and brown people from their jobs because, too much DEI.
Sure.
Like that Librarian of Congress who
Yeah.
was very good at her. I never thought in my lifetime that it would be okay again for us to fire people really because of the color of their skin, and we're going whole hog
Right. This administration is going whole hog. Yeah.
with a cheering section.
Yeah. With a cheering section. Yeah, it blows me away, Laura. It blows me away the amount of support they have behind all of these very well thought out and very strategic and intentional actions that they are taking. The other thing blows me away is that it's almost like there's crickets. Like you don't hear a lot of pushback and resistance. Like you hear a lot of compliance from folks that you would expect to hear pushback from
Yeah.
and resistance from. Uh, it's almost deafening what you hear in resistance to what's taking place now.
I was very surprised by the actions of what's now going to be your former university president over there. That, as you not to put words in your mouth, but complying in advance.
Mm-hmm.
If your multi-billion-dollar endowment isn't there to sustain you through times like this, so
Mm-hmm.
that you can hold as a university dear to the values they said that diversity, equity, inclusion was central to their educational mission.
Mm-hmm.
So to be so willing to back away from it because your research dollars are under threat, they can sustain their research mission exactly as it exists right now through the entirety of the administration and be okay.
Sure. Yeah. So it sounds like what they said that DEI is so central to who you are and what you believe was just really like it's like a paper tiger, right? They didn't really strongly obviously did not uphold. They certainly don't live or didn't live within that value.
Do you think what kind of role do you think the community pushback? Because I don't live there, but I've been watching from a distance, and
Mhm.
it doesn't look like the faculty agree with that decision. It doesn't look like the student body agree with that decision, and it definitely doesn't look like the greater community
Right.
supports that. So is this a case where enough community pushback loud enough over enough period of time, at least you got three or four regents to write
Mhm.
an op-ed saying, yeah, this wasn't exactly what we think we should be doing here, where that community pushback could change the outcome, or it could make a difference.
Yeah, I feel like those sort of resistance movements or pushback um can make a difference, right? It can make a change. The challenge is keeping the momentum going, right? Like I feel, yeah, a lot of these changes that are taking place that are moving us backwards, a lot of these strategies, they expect for the pushback and the resistance when it initially happens, right? They they account for that, right? What their hope is that over time they can diffuse it, or over time people will lose interest. Like we're a society where our interests, our attention span is like, yeah, right, and this guy, I don't adhere to what he does or anything like that, but I think he's pretty brilliant nonetheless. Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon refers to what they're doing now as flooding the zone, right? Which means they're just throwing everything at us all at one time, right? And how do you handle that? Like, right? If you
Woefully
know,
underprepared. It's almost like they had a playbook and they told us for 3 years exactly what they were going to do.
sure, Project 2025, that's the playbook.
That's the playbook.
That's
And
it.
we had it.
Yeah,
We were warned, but I'm gonna I'm gonna be equal opportunity for a second, and I'm
yeah,
gonna say that for political parties, I don't fault the Democrats for not quote unquote doing something right now, because I totally get they don't have the Senate, they don't have the Supreme Court, they don't have any kind of majority in Congress whatsoever. So in terms of formal levers of power, there's
hmm,
not a whole lot for them. At the same time, emails that I'm getting from them are just infuriating right now. Send us money so that we can plan to take back the house. Send us what?
yeah,
Do you think there's going to be a house to take back in 4 years? Because I'm
no,
kind of
yeah,
I'm on
right,
the fence about that possibility
right,
at this point. Like, that's where the informal levers of power become so important right now. And if you, as a national party, don't know how to mobilize,
right,
organize, and push on those informal levers of power, I don't think I want to send you $50.
right,
You're tone deaf if what you're worrying about right now is your election strategy.
right, yeah,
Help us find and recruit can't we're past that. Like,
right,
what are you doing about the existential threat
yes,
right now? Because I'm not seeing it.
right. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, so I don't know, like yeah, how do we keep people's attention to stay focused on resisting. One, which is I don't even know. Two, again, like they flooded the zone with us, right? Like there's what do you focus on, right? Like when there's so many holes in the dam, and all of them or most of them are really priority. Like what do you even begin how do you mobilize?
I keep asking why we aren't just all out in the streets.
Yes, right. That's a great question. I ask myself that a lot too, Laura, and I think about and I think this is another thing they count on as well, right? Is that maybe a lot of folks are infuriated, but they've got jobs and they've got a certain level of comfort that they're used to, right? And as infuriating and as all these things are to be infuriated with, like how much are you really willing to give up, right? To really, yeah, to revolutionize or to really fight back. And some people's levels are, there's different levels, right? It's, wow, you really got me thinking right now about all those things. Yeah, it's interesting.
I think you nailed it. So I'm a parent too. And one of the things that I just feel, speaking of holes in the dam that you just don't, there's so many you don't know where to even plug first because it's
Right.
flooded. I feel as a parent that I'm constantly working against the culture and the soil that we live in, where everything's a commodity to be bought and sold, everything's quick, everything's transactional, and the goal is to buy, buy, buy.
Mm-hmm.
My children are flooded with commercials. I grew up in this and I didn't have anybody put in any context, at least the way that I'm trying to do with my kids, of
Mm-hmm.
that advertiser culture of you need the next new this or you're not a whole person.
Mm.
We don't realize that the whole advertising, even economics, it's built on the fundamental idea of scarcity.
Yes.
I think, Melvin, that one of the things that we're dealing with right now, and this is just, it's human nature. We do have we have some problems. I'm not gonna deny that. We're coming to a crossroads as a country, as a world with what's happening ecologically, with a global economy. The climate stuff and the weather, the crops, that's going to continue to be a thing.
Yep.
Um, and my point is, it's really easy in times like these for people. There's a formula. We've seen that formula. Give them an enemy from within, that's us libs.
Mm-hmm.
Give them an enemy from without, that's the border crisis. Uh,
Yep.
the border crisis.
Yep.
And then focus on their fears.
Yep.
Give simple
That's right.
answers, right?
Yep.
And so scarcity, it's not that I don't want to help feed those other countries, but the United States really's got to, we can't feed everybody. We can't fund in all the world's problems. We've got to solve our own budget crisis. We have to take care of our own. That idea of scarcity, we're going to give too much away, fear, we can't do this when with some changes, there's abundance in this world. There's enough for everybody to eat.
Yes.
There's enough for everybody to have somewhere to have a roof over their head. There's enough. But we've stoked the fears. We've stoked the scarcity. We could have gone two different ways. We chose a particular way, but I got your message. You got to wrap it up. One of the things though that is heartening to me
Mm-hmm.
is we're seeing other countries see what's happening here, that we're
Mm-hmm.
headed in our direction,
Mm-hmm.
unify and take a totally different direction
Yeah.
we're headed in.
Good for them.
Right?
Right?
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, good for them. I uh I was just thinking, yeah, and I do have to wrap up. Um I love the fact that like I'm able to sit here and have this mentally stimulating conversation for me with you. And I think about, but it makes me think about that none of this would even be possible without like us being sober, right? You
Yeah.
know, like and some of the and you touched upon this a little earlier, some of the life lessons that I've learned in being in um Alcoholics Anonymous, I'll just use their name, like being in Alcoholics Anonymous and being having been in Narcotics Anonymous um and how some of those same things apply still to this day, and they allow me the ability to, as you mentioned early, the ability to transform myself, right? Reinvent myself. I think that's how you put it. Um, and to suit up and show up in a different way in life. Um, and to suit up and show up in a different way, Laura, where I can try to make some small sort of difference. I can't, for me personally, like I see a lot of the holes in the dam. And the thing that rings true and rings most to me as a black man is the criminal and justice system and how that's targeted and designed for people that look like me to be impacted the worst. And I think that was the motivating thing for me starting We the People Opportunity Farm and using farming as the vehicle to help change the soil, right? In folks' lives. Because it's all about our soil, and even from the environment aspect. Like if you've got good soil, chances are the fruits or the plants or the vegetables or the flowers, whatever you grow, chances are they will flourish, they'll bloom, they'll thrive because they're in good soil. And and the same thing though applies for human beings, right? Like it's all about our soil, and if we're in good soil, our chances for thriving and living healthy lives. I almost said the word productive life, but I don't want to, like I think, yeah, that's I don't know what production means. I don't want to be productive. I don't want to produce for anyone, right? But healthy and healthy and fruitful and thriving lives are more likely to happen if we're in good soil.
Yeah.
And so that's been my motivation is to try to create good soil where people around me, myself included, um, can exist and be happy and be wholesome and community centered and focused on each other, right? Like, and have that abundance mindset that you mentioned, not that scarcity mindset, but a mindset of abundance.
Thank you for bringing that home, because I believe that there is good in everybody. And
Mhm.
it's a matter because there are points in my life where if you would have met me, you would not have thought that there was any good in me. Um,
Thank
and I probably didn't at that point in time either. It wasn't something that was getting fed or nurtured. But you reminded me of the work that I had to do to face the shadow of myself that I
Mhm.
continue to do. and to be patient with other people and where they are at in their journey, including, our fellow suffering Americans that are unfortunately cheering some of this on right now. It's not easy for me to hold space and patience in my heart for that, but I have to. I
Right.
have to do that. I am called to do that. I don't get to judge. I don't get to throw people out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Because you had a grandma that loved you until you could
Yeah.
see the good in yourself, and I had people who did that for me too.
Yeah.
We'll do this again, my friend. I would love to have you on and continue to explore, how we at the local level, how we continue to change the soil, because I think that's key.
Yeah.
That's where it's at.
Yeah. Let's keep at it. Let's keep trying to change the soil and find out what nutrients and amendments need to go in there.
And sometimes it just needs a season off, right?
Yeah, that's true. Make sure there's a cover crop covering it though. We don't want it to be fallow.
Go.
Yeah.
There you go. I thank you so much for taking time out, Melvin, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Laura. It's so awesome to connect with you.
It's great to see you.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye-bye for now.